ours started in really 2016 after reading an article in Scroll by one of very important journalists in the country, Supriya Sharma, who wrote 20 workers a day lose their fingers just in Gurgaon every day. And that shocked three of us batchmates, Ravi Gulati is here, Prabhat Agrawal and I, and we thought we'll do something about it, and we had no idea what we were getting into. So here we are, several years later, in front of you. The big question in our mind today is, can Indian manufacturing, especially the automobile sector, professionalize with such disregard for workers, their families and their dignity? In March 24, just a few months back, some of you may have read, there was an explosion in an auto component factory in Lifelong Limited where 60 workers got burnt, badly burnt, right? The pictures are so horrific that we did not put them on our social media. 19 of them have since died. They were all contract workers. Their main buyer was and is Hero Motors. There was an inspection later on which found gross negligence, not surprising sadly. Simple regular cleaning of the duct, exhaust duct would have stopped that. It destroyed 60 families. All it needed was a weekly cleaning of an exhaust duct, and people didn't care. The factory restarted after the accident next day. No arrests were made for 3 months. This was the worst accident in our 6-7 years of work in this sector. No mainstream TV covered it. No big newspaper covered it after day one. Compare that, please, with the 3 IS aspirants who died in similarly horrific circumstances in Delhi last month, and everybody was up in arms. At 15,000 rupees a month, for 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, with overtime not paid at legal rates, these workers' lives are cheap. Their safety is inconvenient, and their family's life is dispensable. Is it any wonder that our country has an underemployment problem and labor shortage? Why would people want to work in such circumstances? We think they don't have a choice, but maybe they want to be underemployed rather than work in these circumstances. We meet thousands of such workers across the country every year from auto component factories, all over the country. I hope that the automobile brand stakeholders who are not here in this room today, but I know several of them are listening to this on Zoom, and they're not comfortable coming here, they will forgive us for our feeling of moral outrage. However, if humanity does not appeal, there are economic facts to look at for our country, which is keeping our country behind many countries that we are competing with and we want to surpass. Here are some of them. We have now located and supported more than 10,000 workers, injured workers across the country in 4 states, Haryana, Maharashtra, Uttarakhand and Rajasthan. We have also found a few in Tamil Nadu and Bangalore, but numbers are small because we do not have our operations there yet. Just last year, we located 1,500. This year, we'll locate 2,500. We are already running at that rate. These accidents are going on at an incredible pace. 80% of the accidents that we find, these injuries we find, are from automobile sector supply chain. Indian automobile sector is 1/3 of Indian manufacturing GDP, and it employs more than 1 crore workers. Add families, that's 4 crore people dependent upon this. Combined profits of 10 top automobile brands is 56,000 crores, $7 billion, give or take, right? They have contractualized now, in other words, they made flexible 70% plus of their own workforce. In fact, we understand that one top brand right now in Haryana is running a factory on 100% contract labor. They have all the flexibility. No labor laws are stopping them from any inflexible areas, right? We have now assisted workers from more than 1,000 factories in Haryana and Maharashtra, right? The average size of these factories is more than 100. This is not what people think small factory problem. In fact, 1/4 of these factories are members of ACMA, which right now is represented in room across this hall, right? These are, some of them are listed companies. 25% of accidents are happening in these factories of ACMA. We are thankful that Maruti, Hero and Honda and Industrial Safety in Haryana, we have created a platform to address this problem. And one good initiative was that they agreed to do 30 audits of their tier 2 suppliers. So not the direct supplier, a layer below. 80% of them failed the audit by Maruti, Hero, Honda. We have yet to hear of what they learned out of that, right? Now, so we understand that 25% is ACMA, 75%. Let's assume the 75% is all MSMEs. They probably are bigger than that also, some of them. 40% of Indian manufacturing happens in MSMEs. They employ 62% of Indian workers. And yet, Indian MSMEs productivity is half of global average. So is it any wonder that Indian labor productivity is 133rd in the world? So we are not just talking of human misery here. We are talking of an economic issue too. And we cannot change the situation without addressing that problem from even a business angle. We believe that automobile brands, which are sitting on top of this pyramid, can help, and they should take the responsibility of this issue of people's working conditions in the supply chain. After all, they have unmatched power over their supply chain, commercial power obviously. They have all the technical and managerial expertise that is needed to address these problems. They have the profits, they have the influence, the most influence over the government policies and implementation, far more than we will ever have. They can ask ESIC to improve quality of services instead of not sending their workers to ESIC. It's a very interesting fact that recently in the US there was a study about the attitude of people towards corporate responsibility, because as you know, ESG right now is not the most popular thing globally, right? A lot of people are walking away from it. What they found was this, and this has a reflection in Indian minds too, I believe. 85% of Democrats, and more interestingly, 64% of Republicans want corporate responsibility to go beyond serving shareholders and making a positive impact on the world. Right? These are consumers of our automobiles. This pressure is coming sooner or later. People are going to make decisions. I know it's easier in garments, but it's coming in automobile sector too. So the industry and indeed the country needs to up its game and catch up on these expectations, whether ESG remains an essential vetting tool or not. Later on today, we have Garimaji, who heads the BRSR section of Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs, and we will talk to her about this. So if this Rewari factory blast I talked about is not enough, what kind of wake-up call are we waiting for? We are reporting now 2,500 workers a year. Is that not enough? What do we want really? And I address this to the automobile brands that are listening. What do you want to change your minds? Right? The good news is that some change is happening. But if I come back to Rana Plaza in Bangladesh, what happened, and Deepika is here from Cividep, who's an expert in this, and we'll talk to her later. 1,000 workers got burnt in one factory fire. The country went up in arms, more than the country went up in arms. The foreign buyers went up in arms, consumers went up in arms, and a lot of change happened. I have met a number of these Bangladeshi business people since then who are running those garment factories. And what I find is this, that so many of them are so much smarter, and I'm embarrassed to say this, than our similar sized tier 2 manufacturers in auto sector supply chain. Because that incident forced them to improve their processes. During COVID, I understand, and this is some of the professors talking in London, that they were far quicker to react to COVID situation because they knew how to run processes than our guys who don't believe in processes. We seem to believe in jugaad most of the time. That's not the answer for increasing labor productivity. So do we need Rana Plaza to professionalize our supply chain? So once again, what can automobile brands do? Thankfully, 9 of the top 10 brands are talking to us. We are thankful to them. Mahindra and TVS joined this year. Ashok Leyland continues to be evasive. I don't know when they will change their minds. And so, at least what we are happy about is, as Safety Niti report you will see later, a number of policies have got improved by these top 10 brands, and that's good news. But on the ground, we still need to see a lot of change, and that is lagging behind. One good news is that in Manesar, where we started, the accidents came down last year. But we have said to everybody that unless we see 3 years of sustained reduction in accidents, we won't believe that this action is enough. So these top 10 brands, namely Maruti Suzuki, Honda, Hero, Tata Motors, Hyundai, Bajaj, Mahindra & Mahindra, Eicher, TVS and Ashok Leyland, they can lead this transformation. And we think they can do these 5 things, right? First, owners and brands, they need to own the issue and create the intent. Without that, it's not going to happen, right? We will keep providing evidence. We'll keep showing the mirror. But ultimately, the power is in your hands, right? They need to collect and report data better. They need to do this especially for their supply chains with transparency and accountability. They also obviously need substantive actions. They need to accelerate all the policy improvements and implementations that we have been recommending now for 4 years, 5 years in fact. We have only top 5 policy and top 5 operational recommendations. Of course, if they have better ideas, they must do that. But we haven't heard any better ideas yet. Importantly, I think they should come together and form a joint action, just as the garment sector has done, right? If they come together, 80% of the supply chain is basically owned by or run by or bought from by the top 10 brands. They can do it. They have the scale. They should ask their association, SIAM and ECMA, to include workers and their working conditions in their mandate. It is not there right now. They are obviously lobbying organizations, so they lobby for business. But they must look at bigger picture of Indian labor productivity, the contribution that auto sector can make to the country. With the numbers that we have quoted, they have to be players in improving Indian manufacturing. Most of the countries, the automobile sector leads manufacturing. So does it in India in many ways, right? So they have all the influence. And they must demand better quality of primary, secondary, tertiary healthcare from ESIC and social insurance, because they can do it more than us. We are trying. So they can help India accelerate its journey towards catching up on labor productivity and professionalism. Just to quote some numbers, I said is 133rd, Malaysia is 67th, Mexico is 84th, Brazil is 95th, even Indonesia is 111th. We are behind all these countries and many more. How can we? So here we are with the 4th edition of Safety Niti. Obviously, we are making some progress, painfully slowly. We need all your support for this, so thank you again for coming over here. I'll finish by just thanking my team and 2 people specifically for this. Where is Dhanraj? Dhanraj has authored this report with really robust analysis and taken a notch above under guidance from Saroja, so thank you very much. And of course, even we couldn't have done this without support of our rest of the team. I'll not name all of them, but our operational team, which is our people who go out and help workers, from where we get all these insights, they have to be given credit for day in, day out dealing with injury and pain and tragedy all the time, and yet keeping sane minds and coming back with insights that we finally put in these reports. So I know my team is here, Masab, Manjeet, Aditi, Chandra, and your team, and you, aapke liye bahut shukriya. Thank you. So we promise we'll keep at it. Last such event when we did with workers, we had 1,000 workers, and actually the one before that we had 400 workers, and we said, ye report hum kitna likheं? To kisi worker ne bola, zindagi bhar. That's what we will do. We'll keep writing these reports till this thing changes on the ground, and we need all your support for that. So thank you so much.